Welcome, everyone. I'm Stacy Harmsen with Spell Capital Mezzanine in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I currently serve as the president of the Midwest region for the Small Business Investor Alliance and on its board of governors. This year, SBIA opened its first ever Middle Market Madness bracket for members to have a little fun. We kicked off the event by hosting a great evening with today's guest, Eric Davis. Now, after only the second round, we have 148 participants vying for the top spot. And it looks like many of us, myself included, took Eric's advice and are looking for a Gonzaga championship win. We shall see. Back to my guest, it's my pleasure to introduce Eric Davis. Eric attended the University of Houston, where he was co-captain of the legendary Houston Cougars Phi Slama Jama basketball team. Playing under Coach Guy Lewis and alongside some of NBA's greats like Clyde Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon, Eric was an integral part of this cultural phenomenon in college sports. So we asked him back today to give us a little bit more of the story. Post-college, Eric played both professional football and professional basketball before he went on to serve the city of Chicago for almost 30 years as a police officer. During that time, he and his partner were the inspiration for the 90s hit TV show, New York Undercover. And as we learned from Eric last time, his days as a member of the rap group, the Slick Boys, provided indelible and positive impressions on vulnerable kids in Chicago's South Side. In his so-called retirement, Eric continues serving the city's most underserved communities as the executive director of the Base Chicago, a nonprofit organization that is rebuilding pathways to success for Chicago's urban youth. The Base combines sports and academic opportunities with a distinct methodology that's rooted in excellence, belief, and love. Eric, thanks for being here. It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
So let me ask you from the get-go, just how did the Phi Slama Jama phenomenon begin and how did it evolve?
Wow, that is an amazing question. And it's such a great question, Stacy, because no one ever asked us about that. Usually they want to start right in the middle of the running and gunning. But that's a great question, and thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Pleasure.
We would have to go back to 1980-81, which was my junior year. And before that, I think we would struggle with our group even being considered a team. We were a number of talented individuals that represented the university, but I don't think we could have said we were a team. And in 80-81, we decided that, we want to be a good team. We want to get a banner and hang it from the rafters like the other teams that were good at the University of Houston. And that ended up being our goal. We wanted to win a conference championship, and, we worked hard that year and we accomplished that goal to be good. We then were selected to play in the NCAA tournament. And we went to the East Regional, and there we were to play a team called Villanova that many of us have heard about. And what's funny is in 80-81, we didn't know very much about Raleigh Massimino and Villanova. And I remember the guys asking me, and they would say, since you live on the East Coast, because we had guys from the Bahamas, we had guys from Houston. The majority of guys were from Houston. We had guys from Los Angeles. And I was the guy that lived the furthest east, but they didn't really realize that I actually lived in the middle of the country. I didn't even live east. And I'd heard of Villanova because they had a great track program and it was a good school. I really didn't know much about their basketball program. And we began to overlook Villanova because actually, had we beaten Villanova, we would play Virginia in the second round. And Virginia at the time had Ralph Sampson. And They were maybe 1 or 2 in the nation. It was going to be a national TV game. So we didn't even think about Villanova. We put our focus on the second round game. We get to Greensboro, North Carolina at the East Regional. From the very beginning, Villanova is better prepared. They're stronger than us. They're getting to every loose ball. Their physicality is tremendous. Their coaching was better. The one thing that I'll never forget is that when we were playing them, they were calling us by name. Hey, Clyde is over there. Watch Hakeem. Push Eric this way. And what that told me is they took time to study who we were and to prepare, which would be the exact opposite of what we had done. They beat us pretty handily by about 20 points at the NCAA. And I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was angry. And we all went home, and, just like any other university, the campus was still excited. Hey, you guys are champs. It's okay. You went to the NCAA tournament, all of that. And when I heard all of those things got me angrier. And what I did for the next week helped kind of change the course for who we were going to become. In deciding to be good, we accomplished that goal. But here's something you might not know, Stacy. About 1/3 of NCAA Division I basketball teams are good. In deciding to be good, good is a goal. It's not a plan. And when you decide to be good in sports, you're deciding to win games. When you decide to be good in business, you want to make money. You want to be profitable. But when you don't make a plan to have a sustainable plan, you may not be even good for long. So I separated myself from the guys on the team. I sat and watched Villanova play Virginia on national TV. And I started to create our strategic plan. I started looking at our internal data. What were our weaknesses? What could we get better at? Where do we fail? How can we never allow a Villanova experience to happen again? And I thought that out. I went to Coach Lewis and I said, Coach Lewis, I have a plan that I want to implement for the team. And Coach Lewis said, you're the captain. It's your team. I can coach you from October until April. You can coach them for that gap time. And Lyndon Rose and I sat down. He was the other captain. And we made a decision that none of us were going to go home. And that was important because we had got on campus in some July, some August of 1980. Hadn't been home in a year. And now we were deciding as a team, with a lot of influence from Lyndon and I, that we weren't going to go home. We were going to do the work that it would take to become great, not good. We didn't want to be good any longer. Being good in NCAA basketball, winning a conference championship, it's so local. Do you know that there are 35 conference champions?
Right.
That's not impressive. So when we decided that we wanted to be great, we knew that that would mean if we were in a Christmas tournament, we would win that. We would win our conference championship. We would win our conference tournament. But most importantly, we would win the national championship. And that was the only goal that we put in front of us. So to have that conversation to be great, whether you're in sports or business, the conversation is great, but what's your plan? And we created a plan, and that plan was to get stronger, to get more disciplined, to watch film, and not only study opponents, but study ourselves, to know what our weaknesses were and are, and get rid of them. And we lost to Villanova embarrassingly on March 13th, 1981. On March 20th, 1981, we went to work in preparation for the 1982 national championship.
So when you rolled out your strategic plan, how did the team react? Did you have anybody push back? Was everybody on board? What were the dynamics of the team and their reaction to, your plan to take your team from good to great?
There was pushback, absolutely. There were guys that wanted to see their girlfriends at home. There were guys that wanted to see mom and dad and eat home cooking. And we understood that. But that would have gotten in the way of what our ultimate goal was. We had one guy transfer, and he transferred, but he ended up actually going to the NBA, and he probably wouldn't have played very much at the University of Houston. He went to another school, did really well, and had a 8 or 10 year career in the NBA, and that's what was best for him. Mm-hmm. But that's what had gotten us in trouble prior. Everyone on our team was doing what was best for them. Mm-hmm. And we had to create a new culture. And that culture was truly building team and doing what's best for us. So on March 20th, we started our workouts. From March 20th until May, when we ended school, we practiced 3 hours a day, either playing basketball or we were in the weight room. Once school ended, we worked out 6 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning, working on individual skills that need to improve and lifting weights. And then in the evening, we would scrimmage. And you could see us getting stronger. You could see us getting more focused. But most importantly, you could see us getting on the same page collectively. And there was a magic moment with that for us. We used to work out with the Houston Rockets. And Moses Malone was a great friend of ours. And he was at that time the MVP of the NBA. So we would scrimmage with them at Fondy Recreational Center.
Wow.
And that year, they had just lost in the Western Conference Finals before going to the NBA championship. So it was almost time to go back to school. We were moving like a clock. Everything was falling in place. We were stronger. We were more confident, and not confident, cocky, confident in that we worked hard enough that we know that we're going to be better.
Mhm.
And we were scrimmaging at Fondy Recreational Center, and I bet you there were, 100 people in there. People would come and watch us. They would watch the Rockets, but it's 100 people, and it's the 100 people that usually would come and sit around as we worked out. Moses Malone decides to set the teams up, the Houston Rockets versus the Houston Cougars. And we were like, well, okay, this can do nothing but help us. And we play them, and the game is close. Rob Williams shoots the shot. We beat the Houston Rockets.
Wow.
And when you play that type of basketball, the loser gets off the court, the next team steps up, and you keep going. It was time for the Houston Rockets to get off the floor, and Moses Malone was livid. He said, I'm not getting off the court. We're going to run this back. Now we're getting a real NBA style from the Rockets. They're not treating us like college kids. They're treating us like we're NBA players. We're going back and forth with them, back and forth. They're elbowing, pushing. I'm like, okay, giving some to them. Lo and behold, Stacy, we beat them again.
Wow.
Now, what's funny about that is if I go to Houston today, people will talk about that story. If I go to Houston today, you know how many people were in the gym, Stacy?
How many?
About 100,000.
Oh my God.
Because everyone says they were there. Everyone says they witnessed it.
Wow.
And it was the same 100 people that were always there, the gym rats, the supporters. But in Houston, 100,000 people saw this happen.
Well, what was the team's reaction to winning that game?
After we beat them the second time, we actually ran and grabbed our gear and left. There was no reason for us to play anybody anymore that day. And we kind of looked at each other like, do you believe what just happened?
Right.
We were actually shocked. And that set the tone that, in fact, we could become NCAA champions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go back, I think all the time, we have to be very careful what we set our goals to be. We set our goals to be good, and we obtain that goal. How many businesses set their goals to be good, and they obtain that? 35 conference championships. 35 people are good. 1/3 of the NCAA is good. In your business sector, how many businesses are good? Who's trying to be great, Stacy?
Mm-hmm.
Because to be great, you have to give something up. To be great, you have to be dedicated. To be great, sadly, there's going to be some pain. But there's nothing sweeter than the success of that hard work. And I'll tell you what's really beautiful about this. That whole year, the next year I became, a senior, and that's when we were on our first Final Four run. And what we would say to each other is, don't forget Villanova. Remember Villanova. And we didn't speak in remember the game. We wanted you to remember the pain.
Mm-hmm. That
remember
feeling.
The feeling. Remember what you didn't do. Remember that you overlooked them. Remember that you didn't prepare yourself. Remember that you just thought it would be good to be good. And that really told us never do that again. Never do that again. And the amazing part is that in 1995, Hakeem and Clyde won the NBA championship with the Houston Rockets. And that night, I'm watching him on TV, and I said, I'll give Clyde a call a little later. And I give Clyde Drexler a call. He picks up the phone, and you could hear that it's still chaotic in the back. And he says, Hakeem is here too. And I said, hey, Jelly, what's up? And that's his nickname. That's what we called him, Jelly. And I said, hey, Jelly, what's up? Hey, what's up, Clyde? I said, hey, I just wanted to call and tell you guys congratulations. You know, well-deserved. You guys are awesome. And you know what those two guys said? Remember Villanova.
Remember Villanova.
It motivated.
All that time later.
It motivated them through their lives. And remembering Villanova motivates me still in my life and the things I'm pursuing. Because there was a life lesson learned in that. There was a business lesson learned in that I will never underestimate anyone. I will always work the hardest. I will set my goals high, because if I set them low, I may be cursed and achieve those goals. So that truly is the metamorphosis of Phi Slama Jama.
That's an amazing story. So how do you feel like Remember Villanova impacts your life today, all these years later?
Well, I think we all need something that gets us going at the goal. And I've always used that in the back of my mind, whether I was in business or whether I'm working with the kids. And for me, Stacy, I love the idea of working with a group to accomplish a goal and finding the right people to work with. And when you can do that, there's some pretty magical things that can happen. And I'll tell you something else that was incredible. In 1981, Villanova beat us by 20 in the NCAA tournament. And to be exact, they beat us by 18. In 1983, when the team goes back to the Final Four, to the national championship game, on that road at the Midwest Regional, guess who we have an opportunity to play? Villanova. And what's funny is the media or no one else knows how hyped we are. Because in life, in many cases, you don't get a second bite at the apple. And we were able to get some payback, even though Villanova was who made Phi Slama Jama. They made the University of Houston great. But now we had to give them a thank you. And we played them in the second round of the NCAA tournament in '83 and beat them by 18 points.
No, really?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
You can't make this stuff up. That's unbelievable. Wow. Were any of the same players on that Villanova team?
There was a guy named John Panone who treated us like small children in 1981. And we were very happy to pay back the favor in 1983. Yeah. And you know, what's funny is you hold on to these rivalries, you hold on to these lessons. You know, in 94, we were all glued to the TV when the Houston Rockets were playing the New York Knicks in the championship. And I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, to be quite honest. And, you know, I'm a Hakeem and Clyde Drexler fan when they're in the NBA. But I was cheering for Hakeem to beat Patrick Ewing because in 1984, Georgetown beat us in the national championship. So after he did that and we beat Villanova, I was finally able to get some good sleep after that because we had got our retribution.
Another form of payback.
Absolutely it was.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, as you point out, having a plan and having a team that's all on board with that plan, whether it be in sports or in business or just all aspects of your life, it's hugely important. And those are, as you point out, valuable lessons that you can learn when you're young that, continue with you for the years of your career and in your personal life. I think that's an amazing point.
I'll tell you, if you show me a bad team, I'll show you that they're not, excuse me, they're not really a team. If you show me a bad business, I'll show you a bad team. If you show me a bad relationship, I'll show you that this is a bad team. And you have to set your goals to accomplish maybe not what you would want individually for yourself, but are you willing to give up of yourself for the collective good of the relationship, of the company, of your team? And truth be told, there are some people that cannot do that. But when you find those magical components that can, I'm on the phone with those guys from Slama, Jama. I talk to all of them every day of the month. Someone's calling and we're laughing and correcting history and changing history. But when we're all on the phone and there's 13 of us laughing, joking, it feels like we're 20 years old, 19 years old again. And we do that. And please don't be mistaken. It wasn't because we played basketball. A lot of guys play basketball and haven't seen their teammates in 30 years.
Right.
The reason that we get together is success continues to bring us together. And it's not the success that people saw as the end product. It was that grinding work. It was the fights that we had. It was the days on days we didn't talk to each other, but still showed up to do what we were supposed to do. It was the contribution that every guy on that team made. And I'm talking about from headlights to tailpipes. Everyone made a contribution. And to reach the goal, to reach the result, to create a sustainable dynasty, that's why we get on the phone with each other. That's why all their children call me Uncle Eric, and my children call them Uncle .
Right.
And I think we're all searching and seeking for something like that because it's powerful.
Absolutely. So going back to the Remember Villanova mantra, did that Remember Villanova help temper the Band of Outlaws name and rein in and refocus the team?
Well, I'll tell you, to get beat like Villanova beat us, it's humbling. I wasn't one that wanted to go on campus and be slapped on the back for being good. And then going to a national tournament and making a horrible showing. It wasn't okay for people to tell me that was okay. And I allowed the younger guys on the team to do what they had to do when they came back, to think that they were going to be able to accept that. You can walk around campus, you can get the t-shirts, you can let people acknowledge you, you can let people blow blue smoke up your behind. You can do all of that. But they knew, because we lost on March 13th, but it was very clear on March 20th that I wasn't accepting any of that. And Coach Lewis would sit in the stands because he couldn't coach us, and he would just smirk. He would look and be like, wow. Because in many ways, I felt, and probably this is truer, your peer tells you you're not performing. When your peer tells you you are not making an equitable donation to our success. And I didn't let up on those guys. Well, I still don't let up on them. I'm on them today. I'm still the general to them.
Yeah. What about, the lesson of Remember Villanova and you being the general and, how does that interact with your role right now as executive director of the base? And, how do you take that lesson and integrate it into what those kids are doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Many of my kids, they really do believe that they are going to play professional sports. And that's not even on the radar, to be quite honest. And once again, sometimes you have to be boldly truthful. And you have to point out what the path is, what your contribution is. And for many of our young kids, it's like, you didn't make the sophomore team. If you didn't make the sophomore team in high school, there's probably a good chance that you're not going to make the varsity. If you don't make the varsity, you're probably not going to play in college. But you know what? You're really good in math. And you probably really could be an engineer. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. There are other things you can be great in. Are you willing to work towards those things? When we were individuals, as I said before that 80-81 season, we were all thinking about ourselves. We all had our own fantasies that we would sit and think about for me. That doesn't work with a team. That doesn't work with a corporate group. That doesn't work with a family.
Right.
That's poison to all of those things. So with my kids, the first thing I demand for them is to be great. They're from communities that, of course, they don't see much success. And I tell them, it's real simple. You be the success. This is what can happen. If you focus yourself, if you keep your eye on the prize, if you do all the things that all the people I'm going to bring to help coach you, direct you, guide you, help you, if you follow their instructions, I guarantee you're going to be great. And you know what? Our kids are buying in. Our kids are buying in. As a matter of fact, we had 3 kids this week apply to accelerated medical school.
Wow.
And they should be doctors in 7 years, God willing. And, we had talked about the disparities of healthcare in their community. And I said, now we're not talking about a problem. You guys are now problem solvers.
Part of the solution, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is so inspiring.
So when you talk about Remember Villanova, I remember Villanova every day because that's what pushes me. That's what shapes me. There are some other things, but if you want to get me fired up, because with Villanova and not preparing, we missed an opportunity. And in life, there are so many opportunities, just so many. And you shouldn't waste any opportunity. And I'll tell you, I still kick myself about us not being prepared and wasting an opportunity. Because opportunities aren't as frequent as everyone thinks. They're out there. But when you get an opportunity, take full advantage of that opportunity.
Absolutely. And when you do, as you guys prove to yourselves, the outcome can be so dramatically different. So even though you have that thing that inspired you, you also have the story of, the comeback and the hard work and all the effort that went into that and understanding how that really kind of shaped, the next season of your game.
Stacy, to be quite honest, I really don't remember going to the airport and there were thousands of people at the airport. I don't remember the ring ceremonies. I don't remember the raising of the banners. That was all fluff. I do remember we had a strength coach who was a Vietnam War hero. got injured in Vietnam, got his foot blown off. Tough as nails. His name was Tom Wilson. And anybody that was an athlete at the University of Houston, you say his name, and people are like, oh my God. He demands all of it out of you. And Tom Wilson would never call you by your name if you hadn't won a championship. Because he said, you haven't earned anything for this university. You're just another guy wearing a jersey with a number on it. And he would refer to you by your number. Hey, number 13. Hey, number 12. Hey, number 23. He would call you by your name once you earned something for the university, which was a championship. And after we had lost to Villanova and we had dedicated ourselves to becoming champions, we walked in, had already won a conference championship, and he called each one of us by our names. And he knew that this was the downtime. This was the dead time. There might be some football players in there because it was spring football in the workout room, but he'd never see basketball players in late March or April.
Right.
Yeah, when he saw us in there working, Stacy, not only did he call us all by our names, he came and gave us all a hug.
Wow.
And I'm talking about a gruff guy, a rough guy. There was no mistake about who he was. But that told us, I appreciate you. I see you.
I respect you.
And I see that you're dedicated to the mission.
Right.
And that was a moment for me that I knew for the guys, I'm going to be wearing your tails out. Mm-hmm. And he was there every morning with us. Every morning with us. And we didn't have one guy miss a morning. We had, well, David Bunce missed because he was in summer school and had to take a test one morning. That was the only time someone missed.
It's a dedicated team.
I think that's what we're looking for, whether it's in work, business, or relationships. Give me dedication. If you give me dedication, if you give me hard work, if we're on the same page about achieving the same goal, it's going to be pretty hard to deny you that success.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are great lessons to keep in mind, like I said, in all aspects of our lives. And I guess, so we have just a couple minutes left. Wanted to switch gears a little bit and touch on a few things basketball related. So your team was known for bringing the slam dunk and street ball style of basketball to college basketball. When you look at the landscape today, do you see any new styles of play that are popping up that would kind of that are equivalent to what you guys were doing back in the 80s?
Well, I'll tell you, I love the game today, and I wish there was a time machine and we could play in this era.
Yeah.
Because the game is so wide open. They're shooting threes and running up and down. The game was more deliberate when I played. You had a big guy and you kind of dropped it into him and you let him kind of shoot close to the basket and go with the percentages. And that was basketball then, but this is very exciting basketball. I think most schools play like we played in the 80s now. That is the style now. Mm-hmm. I would love to compete in it. I wish that in that time machine, I could put the great UCLA teams in there. I wish I could put the great Fab Five teams in there. Mm-hmm. I wish I could put the great Duke teams in there. I wish I could put the great UNLV teams in there and then have a NCAA tournament. I would love that.
That would be next level. That would be amazing. Well, now that we're at this point too, and round two is wrapping up, what do you think about the tournament so far this year, and any changes to your prediction as to who's going to win?
This tournament is a hot mess. There are so many double-digit seeded guys that have moved along, and I'm so happy for them and excited. I think that Baylor and Gonzaga are still the cream of the crop. I think they're solid teams. I think the University of Houston has a very, very good chance to be in the dance and possibly sneak by and become national champions. There's 16 left. And what is nice about this tournament, it actually could be any of them. It actually could be any of them because they're still kids. It isn't the NBA. It isn't the best out of 7. It is 40 minutes. You have 40 minutes to prove either you survive and move on or you're eliminated.
Right.
I'm cheering for my alma mater. But,
I wore the red today to represent.
I see the red. I love that.
Yeah.
But I think that you really have to respect Gonzaga and what they've done, not just in the tournament, but what they've done all year. And I'll tell you what, Stacy, I would love to hear their story. Not what we see, that backstory, because I bet Gonzaga's story is pretty amazing too.
They probably have some type of a Remember Villanova moment that they're working off of as well, right?
Well, you know what? I think there's a moment in time, whether you're in business or whether you're in sports, that you need some real adversity to really bring a conversation to the table and a plan on how do we improve ourselves. Because I don't think if you're good and there's no adversity, I don't think there's any motivation for you to change. And I think we were severely embarrassed. And that was all the motivation that we needed. And what's amazing about the kids at the University of Houston now is that they still wear 5 Slama Jama gear. They're selling a ton of 5 Slama Jama gear online. And
that's where I got mine. It was not easy. It was not hard to find it. It was actually quite easy.
and I'll tell you, 30 years ago, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We're humbled that anybody remembers us. But we're proud that we helped set the mold of what that university's program should be and what we should be trying to attain. That we're very proud of.
Right. And when we say cultural phenomenon, in the introduction, I mean, it's absolutely true. It transcends time, and the legacy still exists today. So it's something that's it's been really great to speak with you and just understand a little bit more about the evolution of that and how that came to be. So I think we're kind of running out of time. Is there anything else that you wanted to add at the end here?
Well, I really appreciate you guys, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your platform. And remember, you can also create a business cultural phenomenon. The process is the same.
Thank you so much, Eric. And thank you for being a really fun part of SBIA's Middle Market Madness this year. It's just been wonderful getting to know you, and let's definitely stay in touch.
Okay, thank you. You guys take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Eric. Good. I encourage all of SBIA's members to visit Eric's organization, The Base Chicago's website, to learn more about the program and the initiatives they provide. The address is thebase.org/Chicago. Thanks, Eric. I look forward to seeing everyone at the 2021 Deal Summit, June 2nd and 3rd in Chicago. And if you can come to Minneapolis in April, please join me for a wine tasting on the 28th. More information about both of these events can be found on SBIA's website, sbia.org. Thanks, everyone.